Good morning. Welcome to this edition of the Rich Urban Show. I'm your host, Richard Urban. So happy to have Jennifer Krouse on today. She's one of the two running for one of the two positions for county commissioner here in Jefferson County. So please introduce yourself, Jennifer.
Good morning. My name is Jennifer Krouse. I'm running for Jefferson County Commission. I live in Shepherdstown and I've been here for a little over 9 years, sometime between 9 and 10 years.
I saw on your website, faith, freedom, family. Would you like to talk a little bit about what's really motivating you to run and what the most important issue you think is here in Jefferson County?
The three most important things to me in my life are my faith, my family, and my freedom. And well, our freedom. And I was very upset to see, 2 years to almost 2.5 years ago, it seems, government closing down schools, telling people they can't go to church. These are right.
When about 2 years ago, everything was shut down. The government said we can't send our kids to school. We can't attend church. Those were things that I had a very big problem with. Businesses forced to close. I'm not okay with any of that stuff. That is something that really upset me, this government overreach. And my son, he's an EMT in the county. He would go to the firehouse and he would come home and talk to me about things over there. And I started to realize that they're having some problems in the county with this kind of thing. And, when I was approached about running for county commission, I thought, well, these are some things that I might really be able to have some say about, have an impact on these decisions, and maybe there's something I really can do to help our county.
So absolutely, yeah.
There you go.
You were mentioning about the emergency services, and I know there's been the Fitch report has been in the news, and then there's a lot of talk about what to do. And I just reading an article in the Spirit of Jefferson about different proposals out there. Can you give your take on what's going on with the emergency services, and I guess specifically the ambulance organization of the ambulances?
Yes, I certainly can. Yep, that's good. Thank you. Okay, so regarding the ESA and this Fitch report, that's a very hot topic right now, and for very good reason. I feel that at the moment, we have 13 ambulances in the county. One is about to be sold, and that's beside the point. That's at Bakerton, and that's a business decision. That has no effect on this. But so we'll count it as 12 ambulances. The Fitch report, gave 3 different options. The one that the county were considering was coming down to 4 ambulances. That got very poor reviews. Everybody was very, very unhappy to hear about that for good reason. There have been some different ideas floated between the fire and EMS chiefs and the commission, and I think some good ideas have come about. Unfortunately, the idea that maybe a fire fee or a levy would be imposed, I can't support that. I don't support raising taxes, levy, same thing. I can't support that, but I do think that there are different ways of looking at things in our county that maybe aren't being looked at. There's certainly always waste in government, and that's a very big issue that we all hear about, a lot of the pork. And we could look at various places where we're losing money, and maybe we need to redirect some of it to fire and EMS. I'm not sure. But what I don't like is when people say, well, this is how we've always done it, and this is what we're going to do. I don't like that. I really think that it's important to look at things with fresh sets of eyes and, start thinking about things a little differently. Now, one of the ideas that I've been talking to some fire chiefs, EMS chiefs in the county about is every one of our fire companies is run independently as its own business. Would it make sense to, I think dissolve is the wrong word, but wouldn't it make sense to restructure that? And instead of having 7 different fire companies, fire businesses, have those all under one big company, and then all the money goes into the same pot, and everybody gets their
Can I
what
interject
they
one
need.
thing?
Yes.
Well, yeah, I think one of the main questions seems to be, correct me if I'm wrong, that the medical payments that come from insurance companies, you know, from like the you know, different accidents or whatever they're servicing, goes to the firehouse, and none of it goes to the county. But according to what I'm reading, the county employees provide about something like almost 80% of all the calls. So it seems something is not right there. What do you think?
Well, that's a good point, and something that I have heard about. But that's part of my restructuring idea. I think it's important to, and I've also heard issues about not everybody is billed. I think everybody, to the best of my knowledge, everybody gets a bill. The problem is sometimes you have people that don't pay it, and they don't really, you know, try to encourage, you know, people to pay that medical insurance bill. You know, one thing I've learned is that Loudoun County, we're about 30 years or so behind them on fire and EMS. And where we are in our county, that's where they were. They restructured some time back, and now they are the Loudoun County Combined Fire and Ambulance Service. And so that's what they've done. And I think it's important to look around look around us and see who else does things a little bit differently, and consider that before we start talking about restructuring everything so that, you know, we have a reduction in service. If you're going to take ambulances away, I don't care where you put them, somebody's going to get a delay in their care because of that.
Right. Agreed. That's a clear view on that topic. I like your take on, you know, looking at best practices or other counties. So I think that needs to be done. It seems like something needs to be done, because that's what, like, something, fire and emergency services are like 1/3 of the budget or some large portion, right?
Right. Exactly. And necessary.
Right.
I mean, maybe most people go forever without ever needing to call 911, but you know, there are many of us who have, and when it is your turn, when you do need them, you don't care. You don't want to hear that they're over on Blue Ridge if you're in Shepherdstown, or you don't want to wait. That's your home, or that's your loved one who needs help right now. And, you know, simply cutting out ambulances and things that we already own, that doesn't make sense to me. That doesn't make sense to most people.
Okay, understood. That's a good coverage on that issue. Yeah, I wanted to mention one other thing. There's been some talk about, I think one of the functions, of course, of the county commission is setting zoning, and there's been talk about solar farms, and I've done a little research on it. So here's the question. Do you think that as a matter of right, farmers should be able to, you know, put solar farms on their property, or rather should it require like getting like a zoning that's appropriate, or industrial zoning? I guess I'm kind of tilting the question a bit, but what's your take on that?
So how I feel about that is that I'm all about property rights. Okay, you own property in the county, you have a right to do with it, you know, what you see fit. When a farmer owns a farm, and certainly farming these days is triple the cost of what it is, or what it was a couple of years ago, just because of inflation. It's horrible. But if a farmer decides, he can't do it anymore. His son doesn't want to do it, or his daughter doesn't want to do it, but he wants to save that farm for the following generation, right? And maybe his grandkids would like to inherit that farm and work it. And he can't, maybe he doesn't want to sell to a big developer. A lot of people don't want, huge tracts of houses in our county. And I understand that. But if he wants to use his property in order to make money, and keep it in his family until such time that somebody else might be able to take over the farm, I understand that. And while it's not the most attractive thing to see these solar farms, from what I understand, the solar farm that we're talking about in our county would, screen it with tall growing trees and growth that would shield it from view. You would be able, of course, see it from above, but if you're driving past, you wouldn't have to really look at it. And he would be able to keep, he would be able to earn the money on it. He has the right to do that, and then save it for future generations. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I've heard probably it's too extensive a discussion for this forum, but there are issues like in other counties I know where they have had the same issue of runoff and things like that. But I think personally, this is obviously my personal opinion. It needs to be a lot more research because of those kind of issues. Sure. I do believe, obviously, in the right to build, but it's kind of like an industrial application in a way because nothing's regrowing there. Things there's been problems with runoff, like down into the rivers and stuff. So I think that should be looked into. That's my personal opinion.
Certainly. And I don't know everything about solar farms either. And I do believe it's important to protect where we live. We have a beautiful county. I mean, I'm sure that you know as well as I do. We have a lot of green open spaces, farms. It's beautiful here, and definitely don't want to do anything to harm that.
Yeah, so that kind of segues into generally what is your view of, like, in the past we've had the whole debate, and I guess it's still ongoing to some extent, but about rock wool and this. What kind of industry, what kind of business would you try to attract to the county, or what kind of economic base, or what opinion do you have on that?
That's a really good question. So from what I hear from constituents, I have been out door knocking for weeks and weeks and weeks now, getting to know a lot of the members of our county. And one thing that I hear is people want to know, they're worried about more factories coming into our county, and those stacks don't look very pretty when you're driving down the road and you have to see those, the smokestacks from Rockwell. People are very concerned about more and more and more of those popping up here. And it isn't pretty. I understand about bringing jobs here and everything, and that's very, very important. One thing I think would be very important to try to attract to our county would be technology jobs. I have, there's a gentleman that I met who recently who owns some technology companies, and he lives here because he loves it here. But when he wanted to see about building another tech job company in our county, he was not welcomed. And I can't understand why. When the jobs that his company is paying are an average of between $80,000 and $120,000 a year, you can certainly support your family on that. And why would we not want to encourage that here? Especially
can I interject? So
yes,
would that be like the commission's committee? What's it called? Jefferson County Development Agency. Sorry, that's not the exact word. Is that the kind
I think
of
it's Development Authority.
Exactly. Yeah. Is that who he was dealing with?
I think it is who he was dealing with. I'm not positive on that, but I think so, if I remember correctly. But he wasn't welcomed, and the frustrating thing to him was that, he has. If you look over the right, 15 minutes to our east, we have Virginia, and they welcome those kind of jobs. I think one of his companies is in, I want to say Leesburg, if I remember correctly, and the other one was somewhere down south, Alabama, Atlanta, something like that. Maybe it was Atlanta. And you know, those kind of jobs, those kind of companies were welcome there. Why not here? You know, I think, you know, it's very important to maintain the character of our county, but we also we're growing, and I think that it's important that we grow carefully and be very considerate of who we want here. Do we want more factories here? I don't think very many people do. Do we want more high-paying tech jobs? Why wouldn't we?
Yeah, I'll have to agree with you on that. Yeah, I've often thought, like you were saying, one of our greatest assets is the beautiful environment and county. So
Right.
that's something to market too. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yes.
All
Yes,
right.
and we have amazing history, and I mean, why wouldn't people want to visit here? We've got a lot of great stuff happening.
Agreed. A lot of people do visit, and more can
Yeah.
and enjoy. Yeah. So on another topic of the related to the I guess county services, one of the big ones is the, of course, law enforcement and sheriff's department. Now, I was reading recently that Sheriff Hansen wants to triple the force, I believe, over 8 years. He wants to add 2 deputies every year, and I'm thinking, really, is that statistically sound? He's citing some study by Justice Department, whatever. But you know, anyway, what's your take on that?
You know, I won't lie and tell you I know everything about that. What I can tell you from conversations with him and with other law enforcement officers, you know, in our county at any given time, we have upwards of 70,000 people. And, you know, just between residents and vacationers and people who work here but don't live here, we have a lot of people in our county. And it's very important that we maintain the safety here. We also have a huge opioid problem that needs addressing, and that's part of addressing it. You know, but I do need to learn more about that. I'd like to read that study and you know, maybe talk with Sheriff Hansen a little more about that.
I mean, again, I need to learn more too. I didn't see any justification other than at least what I was reading, that some Justice Department standard. But it seems like, what standard? You know, I mean, if you're in Washington, D.C., maybe that's one standard. We're not D.C., so I don't know. You know what I mean?
No, we're not. Thank goodness.
About police per population. Because what I was reading, again, it may have been incomplete, it may have not, didn't say, well, in rural areas such and such, in city areas such and such, and there are way different. You know, they're really different.
Yes, that's very true. I mean, we have some parts of our county, as you know, that are like I said, they're wide open, they're green, they're farmland, and there aren't, you know, high rates of population there. And then there are certain parts of our county where we have little cities, and they do need a lot of attention right there. But you know, I don't have the answer. I do want to learn more about that, and again, just you know, we should look at things with a careful eye and look at the way our county is growing. And certainly, you know, we have thousands of building permits out there. Those are families. You know, I think it would be good to say, let's keep our options open. Let's see what kind of needs are presented, and pay attention to that.
Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. On another topic, what about the role? Does the county commission have any role to play in ensuring election integrity? I asked another candidate. They didn't, not for county commission, but another for the delegate position. And maybe you could help me here. I'm not clear whether the county determines like what voting machines and methods we use, or the state. But does the county commission have a role in that? Like, I'm concerned about the so-called black box voting machines and the great, like voted Blue Ridge Elementary, the delay in voting because now you only use machines and they only have 3, and before there were like 8 polling stations. But also furthermore than that, or more than that, just the fact that we don't know what these machines are doing and stuff. Anyway, do you have, well, I guess two-part question. Does the county have a role in deciding what machines are used or not used? And what's your opinion about the issue generally?
So
regarding the issue generally, I do happen to believe that election day should be that. It should be election day. I'm not a big fan of early voting, and all of that, but I do think that it should be one day. Of course, there are always the exceptions, people who are in the military or people who are, they have surgery scheduled for that day or that week, and they know they won't be able to get there. I understand that, and then you apply and you get your ballot. That's fair. I don't like this. I think that it leaves the door open to too much. There's cheating, and it leaves that door open to being vulnerable. From everything that I hear, we have very high standards in our county. I have a lot of faith in Jackie Shadle and the way that everything goes over there with counting votes. But to answer your question about is that the county or is that a state thing, I'm not positive. I believe it's a state thing, who determines the kind of voting machines and things like that. But I could be wrong. I'm not sure.
Even though I'm not aware of particular instances of problems, I think in general, the idea, and also I know myself using the machine, it prints out the ticket and then you, I guess ballot, and then they feed it into the scanner. Well, I'm guilty myself, and I've read somewhere that 2/3 of people do this. Hey, I didn't check it in the last election. I will this time to make sure it was actually who I voted for.
Well, there were instances in the country. I don't know about locally, but there were instances in the country where that happened, where the voter voted for a certain candidate, and when it was fed into the machine, it popped up that they voted for the alternate, and that thank goodness they caught those. But yeah, think about how many people like you and me who didn't do that, and we just trusted it, and we just we trusted, but we didn't verify.
Well, right. When you're adding more complexity and there's so many issues, I think that should be looked into, and that is an important role of, ensuring election, integrity is very, very important. Yeah, so I think that is an issue. Yeah, and one other thought I had was about, so property values have been increasing in the last, I'd say, 2 years. Yeah, 2 years plus. Dramatically, which means property taxes are increasing dramatically. So, but then I was reading a budget report, I think it was for the last fiscal year, but probably the same for this fiscal year that I guess is coming up now starting July. They were saying, what I'm getting to is that, we need more money, but already the property taxes are the values are going up, so you're paying more property tax. But we still need more money. Something doesn't seem right there. Do you have any comment about that?
That's a really good point, and something that all of us in the county worry about. I lived in Maryland for most of my life, and I lived in Anne Arundel County, and those property taxes were creeping up every year. My sister lived in downtown Annapolis, and you want to talk about skyrocketing property taxes. It was crazy down there. That was bad. But we need money obviously to run. But like I was saying earlier, I also think it's important to see where there's waste and where we can pull money from certain places in order to spread it around to different places that need it. And I'm being very non-specific because, I don't have anything in front of me, to discuss it specifically. But, I do think it's important to look at, what are we spending our money on now? Where is all of that money going? We have to be very careful. These are taxpayer dollars. These are your dollars and my dollars, and that matters very much. I'm not interested in wasting anybody's money.
Okay, fair enough. Well, I think we're coming near to the close of the interview. What would you like to share with the voters about why they should vote for you in the primary versus your opponent?
I've been a resident here for almost 10 years. I have 3 kids in our public schools, 1 high schooler and 2 elementary schoolers. I love this county, and I have friends all over this county. I know business owners, and I know people who work in the companies around here, just even at the grocery store, even at the gas station. I love talking to people and hearing, what's going on with them. How are things in their household? I care about this community, and I know the people in this community, and I know what our county needs. And, my opponent in this race, he just moved here, I guess, within the last year or so. And while he says he has, experience with, it was the Montgomery Village something, and that's great. But he doesn't know people here. He doesn't have kids in our schools. He doesn't have the same, invested here that I do. I just think I know the community better, and and I am also not interested in this as a stepping stone to anything. I'd like to do my, a 6-year term at the county commission, which is kind of long, but I'd like to do that, and then I'd like to step aside for the next person.
Okay, fair enough. That's a good statement of, what you're thinking and why you're running. Well, I thank you so much for, coming on today. I do encourage all the voters to vote. There are 2 county commissioner positions, so you can vote for each of them on your chosen primary ticket, or the one that if you're independent, or the one you're registered for if you're Democrat. Or, here we're talking Republican, of course. I'm
Right.
independent, but I usually vote on the Republican primary. So yeah, I do
Okay.
thank you for coming on today. I really, really appreciate it.
Thank you, Richard. I really appreciate you having me and letting me, get my word out.
Okay, so this has been the Richard Urban Show. Do vote on May 10th, and we will see you next time.